ado, I am really excited for this talk from Amanda. I am passionate about democratization, as a lot of you know. So I'm really excited to hear her talk about it. So, Amanda, please take it away.
I will. Okay, so I've given this versions of this talk a few times, and I've gotten some pushback, some feedback, some questions. There's some questions that came up in the panel we had earlier today. So I'm going to kick us off with some questions. We're going to poll you all first, and then see if this talk shifts anything for you. So first question: how confident are you that research that you're doing right now is making an impact? Not at all confident, kind of confident, very confident. Take a minute to answer here. Awesome. For the sake of time, I'll move on to the next question, but I believe these polls are going to be up for the whole conference, so you can answer whenever works for you. Question number 2. What is your take on research democratization? You right now, in time, are you hating it? You're like, meh, it is what it is. No opinion yet, kind of open to it, or you're like, yeah, I freaking love this. That's my jam. Awesome. Okay, question 3. Let's get into some fears, some deep stuff. These are the things that have come up for me and the questions I get asked at the end of talking about this topic. So, what's your top fear when you think about research democratization? Is it replacing you, the researcher? Is it that it like muddies the waters? It's not clear what like research as the discipline is. Are you like, I don't really trust my cross-functional partners to be unbiased? It's like pretty hard to do. Those folks can't really trust them for that. Are you totally fearless about research democratization in general? You're like, I don't really have any fears, or something else. And if something else, we'd love to see that in the comments also. Yeah, a fair amount of distrust here for your cross-functional partners. It's probably warranted. Makes sense. So being unbiased is pretty hard. All right, question 4 out of 5. The biggest value of research democratization is that fill in the blank. From your perspective right now, is it that it's educating your partners on what research is? Is it that it's scaling the amount of research that can be done? Is it that it's creating a bigger impact, just like empowering, engaging more people, just more? Are you like, I don't really see any value, or is there some other value that you can think of? And again, throw that in the chat. We'd love to see that in the comments section. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, a few all of the aboves. Surveys are not my strong suit. I definitely have used them before. But yes, all of the above, Nicole, would be a great answer for next time as well. Great call there. Okay, final question to wrap us off here. What is stopping you right now from starting a democratized research program wherever you work? Is it lack of stakeholder relationships, or perhaps you don't have stakeholder endorsement, or there's a company mindset you might be battling against? Do you yourself lack some of the research skills needed to create this? Are you don't really believe in this? Maybe you don't have the time to put it together, or something else? Yeah, Donald, we're definitely going to be publishing these poll results at the end of the conference. Absolutely. If you're a person who does research, yeah, my hypothesis is that you love data, as I do as well. So we'll be keeping these open for anyone to answer, and we'll definitely be sharing the larger results with you all. Okay, wonderful. That was a super helpful pulse from me. I'll get into the talk now, talk you through democratization here. Fear of being replaced. Yeah, that goes deep, Kate. Thank you for sharing that. So here we go. Here's my story. A quote that I love from Walt Whitman here. I feel like it perfectly applies to research as well. As researchers, we do a lot. Our roles are really complex. And if you're listening in right now, I'm willing to bet that your role contains multitudes. For example, here are just some of the roles that I've taken on as a researcher across my career. So the beauty of what we do is that it spans disciplines and approaches. So some days I'm an anthropologist like Jane Goodall, observing people in their natural environments. And other days I'm inhabiting the persona of Sherlock Holmes, looking beyond what the pieces say to what's at the heart of the data. So I get this new job a few years back. I'm going to be the first researcher in the New York office at Lyft. And I'm going to be focusing on this really complex space involving both passengers and drivers, which is the pickup stage of the rideshare experience. Cool. I'm nervous. I'm excited. And when I first joined Lyft, the office was small enough to hear every desk conversation, and we were all crammed into this one narrow floor. And I was wondering, like, I found pretty much prior to research on the scene, most teams or companies for that matter fall into one of two camps. There's like the cricket side of the scale, just absolute and total silence, just eyes blinking. You're a researcher? Blink. What's that? Blink, blink. I've never worked with research before. Or the other extreme, you as a researcher and your role are just absolute celebrity, insatiable demand. People are just elbowing each other to get some of your time and attention. When I arrived at Lyft, it was definitely more of the cricket scenario. And it gets lonely out there as a sole researcher. So here's where I went to work drumming up interest like it was my job. I got out the metaphorical megaphone and started running lunch and learns to share what research does. I had coffee chats and meetings with about 60 of the 80 people in the office. I spoke at all hands. I went to engineering huddles to learn what teams were building. And I reminded managers and everyone that I was chatting with, like, hey, we have this opportunity to test ideas. Bring that up at your respective meetings if you see anything that's worth testing. I also did a really small research project on a mutually interesting space for many of the teams. So I built out a rider journey across the rideshare experience. And I included things like users' emotional workarounds that they do in their Lyft rides. And slowly the requests began to trickle in. So a designer had just launched this new feature, Pickup Notes, and this was a way for riders to communicate to drivers some of the details of their pickup spot. So descriptions of themselves for a place like, I'm standing outside McDonald's or wearing a purple sweatshirt, that kind of thing. And the designer wondered, could we test this in a few days' time? Data scientists were noticing some interesting behavioral data that took place during the ride itself, but had no idea why. And they wanted researchers' help determining what happens in the car, something our app doesn't tell us, and research is really uniquely positioned to help answer with riders and drivers themselves. Was I free next week? A product manager was operating in the dark about the biggest pickup pain points and wanted research to help uncover those to inform an upcoming roadmap of what teams would be building. How about some research at the end of this week? And my personal favorite, a group of very creative engineers who had heard the drumbeats of research around the office wondered if I could help test some hackathon projects or pressure test some features before they launched. Could I test it tomorrow? All really interesting projects, no? All worthy of a researcher's efforts, right? Except that they all seem time sensitive. And it was just me, one researcher with all of these requests. I wanted to do a good job. I had created all of this demand. It was overwhelming and stressful. From this place, Rapid Research was born. Rapid Research is a self-serve program with training at key moments, a representative panel of customers, and synthesis support. So self-serve. As researchers, we know a lot, and this is where we share that knowledge and bolster our cross-functional partners. We become coaches, counselors, paving the path to research for our teams. Now, we have a lot to share, so these trainings at key moments really play in here. It's important that as we're enabling our partners to step into the research role themselves, that we're equipping them with the tools they need to be successful. And again, training at key moments really do just that. So representative panel, we bring in real customers for this research. I have found 6 to be the magic number, and I'll often recruit 1 or 2 as floaters to fill in case we get a no-show. And then synthesis support. So lastly, after running this program a few times, I got the feedback that the synthesis part, the looking at the data collected and determining what's a pattern, what's an insight, was hard to do for my partners, and my support was especially needed there. So I started offering office hours where rapid research teams could book a session with me to review their notes or research sessions together, and we collaborate on the findings. So how does it all work? Here is how I've run it at Lyft for the past 4 years, and hopefully you can take what's helpful for yourself or your teams. This became the sound of rapid research. It really got people's attention. Hopefully, it got your attention. And in trying to get people to submit projects, I'd kick off by sounding the gong. All right. So now, once you've got some projects submitted, it's all about identifying the right projects. So I would meet with all interested parties. And in the beginning, this meeting was a really big unlock. I got to meet people I wouldn't have come into contact with. I got to build relationships, hear what they wanted to learn, all of that kind of stuff. But again, this is in the leave it column because as the program evolved, it became much too time consuming for me to meet with all of the interested parties. And so we moved to an asynchronous intake form where I'd ask people to fill in some questions about what they wanted to answer. And this was a perfect forcing function for teams to think through what they wanted to learn and elaborate on their goals on their own first before reaching out to me. I kind of forced them to think. In the early days of rapid research, if you asked to be in the program, you were in, no questions asked. So this was super effective in bringing people into the process, but some projects simply weren't suited for this type of research, either because they required a trained researcher to examine the issue, or the research method that was needed to answer the question didn't suit this. So for example, some questions really needed a survey or a multi-phased approach or in-context interviews. This was not this program. So what makes for a good rapid research project? I leaned on some criteria here for project selection. Urgency. How soon does a team need to make a product decision? Impact. How will the insights be used? What will the impact be? And lastly, research fit. Are 20-minute interviews the right way to answer these research questions? And when it comes to research fit in particular, it's okay to own what this approach is good for and what it's not. So rapid research works best for approaches like design comparison, usability testing, concept testing, straightforward approaches that can answer a specific question in a short amount of time. So each project would kick off with a working session. Really high energy. I made it mandatory for everyone to have at least one other teammate participate, so this load was shared with them. And this, what you're looking at right here, is the slide that I would share with the teams. So really clear delineation on which items fell to them, which items fell to myself, and which we shared and worked on together. All the pink dots you're seeing here are what I'm asking the teams to do. And if you look closely, you'll see that I'm asking teams to write their own discussion guides. How are engineers or product managers supposed to write discussion guides? They're really hard to write, and I do this professionally. So everything that can be a template should be a template here. Remember, you're the expert. This program lets you share that expertise. So it's on you to set everyone else up for success. And you can see my intake form here on the left I mentioned earlier. So this is asking questions like, what decision are you trying to make? What's your hypothesis? How certain are you that it's true? In the middle there, that's the main rapid research template. So that links out to mock research plans, discussion guides, note-taking templates. And then at the end in pink, you can see that's the insights one pager. So that's asking the team to reflect on the top 3 things they learned, pull in some supporting customer quotes. Remember, non-researchers are going to be conducting the research. It's that team that's making the discussion guide. It's that same team that's moderating the interviews. So how do they learn to moderate? I created this course on the greatest hits of moderation and called it Moderate Like a Boss. And it's a training that all new facilitators have to take. And it gives them some useful tips on interviewing users and then has them practice in real life with someone else for 20 minutes. And what you're staring at right now is an internal badging system that we had at Lyft. So to build out the hype, I created this badge for training. And so far, about 80 people have taken this class and been awarded this badge internally. And this is anyone from UX writers to technical product managers, directors of engineering. It doesn't matter what your background was. It didn't matter what role you had. It didn't matter what how executive you were or not at the company. If you were going to be speaking to our customers using this program, you needed to take this training with me. So I'll give you a little bit of a peek into some of the training here. Included in this was helpful cues for teams. So some tips here is reminding folks that they're in control. Don't have the customer or the user control you. You are the one that's extracting the data. You have that confidence to go out and execute your discussion guide. Again, I made, this wasn't done in isolation with just one PM or one data scientists going off and conducting their own rapid research. And so whoever they brought into the process, they needed to set really expectations with them as well. So everyone needed at least one note taker and one moderator. So being clear on, for the note taker, what is it that you want, folks to take notes on? What are things that are important to look for? We knew in the insights one pager that we wanted people to be pulling quotes, which were really helpful for them to, surface what someone's experience was and share with their teams. And so, have people listen for those really juicy quotes and write them down in the slides. Be interested all the time also, right? Like unconditional interest, but at the same time, keep a poker face. This is particularly true for usability testing. You don't want to give anything away, right? You want to make it totally neutral, whether someone has clicked on the right thing or completed that task or not. Of course, the trail off. So you might use a pickup note and you had difficulty picking up your passenger. That was, oh, so you're saying trail off is really, really powerful. Use their words, right? Like we all have the jargon that we've learned from our various teams, from our various companies, boil it down to the simplest stuff as possible. And then lastly, let it go, right? Like you can get caught up in being nervous or trying to lead a discussion a particular way. At the end of the day, just take a deep breath and be in the moment and try learn from whoever it is that you're sitting in front of. So now it's on. Everyone's been trained. Everyone's gone through those templates. They're all in the room. Here's what the research session looks like. We recruited 6 general population customers. So those are the orange Cs. And those are rotating through 6 different research team projects, which are these green Ts here. And this all happens live or recently via breakout sessions on Zoom. So each team has 20 minutes with each participant, with a 5-minute break in between before rotating to the next team. So if you're calculating the math out there, the entire rapid research session lasts roughly 3 hours and 15 minutes. So that pickup notes team, they're sitting in one location while 6 different passengers are passing through to weigh in on that feature. There is so much energy and excitement in the room. For many partners, this is the first time that they are speaking face-to-face with our customers. And you have 6 whole projects getting some different research love at the same time. The second best part to seeing everyone in action, engaging face-to-face with your customers, is to see those learnings forming, those research wheels turning. So an engineer who didn't know what research was 3 weeks ago is now sharing an insight about the number of usability bugs in a build she was going to launch the next day. Sharing the learnings puts my teammates in the research hot seat in the best possible way because they own their insights. The product manager has had this amazing epiphany about airport use cases and finds out that airport riders have a particularly hard time entering pickup location details because of the luggage. And now we've got some cross-pollination happening here. So that designer that was researching pickup notes is learning from the product manager. And the product manager is learning from the designer and what they learned about pickup experiences. My favorite moments are overhearing the research get shared in the wild. So an engineer turning to another engineer and saying, don't build that way. Those 3 buttons are too close together for our passengers. Or a product manager sharing with a teammate in the lunch line that he observed drivers needing more assistance finding a pickup spot. And we've really got to think about ways to better help them. And maybe we should run a brainstorm to kick off that area next week. More than that, after running this research program, I definitely became a research celebrity, but beyond that, it was really a virtuous cycle for me because the people that I invested in with training, with synthesis support, they got better and better at collecting light feedback the more they participated in the rapid research program. It also fostered a learning culture in our office, which is incredibly important. It gave my teams ownership over the research insights and trust into the process I was setting up. It created a research community around me. And this has been so successful for Lyft that they actually created and hired for permanent research teammates whose sole job it is to run rapid research. Thank you so much.